as you can see, I have my double primary color wheel template set up here, and I will talk about that a little bit more. But first I want to talk about the colors. So what does it mean to be a double primary color wheel? Basically, it means I'm going to use 6 pigments. So I'm going to use a warm and a cool of each of the 3 primaries, yellow, red, and blue. And what I want is I want a good separation in this warm and coolness, which is going to give me the biggest color range or range of colors that I can mix from these 6 primaries. So when I'm choosing the primaries, I want a yellow that tends towards the green side, as far as I can go before I have to call it yellow-green. So I've hence a yellow here. And on the warm side, I have Indian yellow. So this is a yellow that tends towards the orange side. You can also see that I've got these colors in my color wheel already, in my palette already. In the reds, I have a very cool red, quinacridone magenta. This is the red that goes to the violet side. And then I have a red that goes to the orange side. This is the warm one, organic vermilion. You can use any pigments that have this color relationship to do your color wheel. They don't have to be exactly as I've got here. On the blues, I've got a French ultramarine blue, which is a blue that tends towards the violet side, and that's the warm side. And then we've got phthalo blue, which is the green shade, and that is the one going towards the green. It's secondary green. So each of these colors has a bias toward a secondary color, and that bias will affect the colors that they will mix. All right, so you can see that I've got them over here in my color wheel already, and we're going to do what I call the purest state of hue of the color wheel. There's lots of different kind of color wheels that we could make, but we're going to try to make these a pure or a true primary from these 6 colors, and we're going to mix from there. I'm going to put these ones off to the side now and come over to the color wheel and the palette. Now I've got my little dropper, and I'm going to use that in a little bit, and I've got a mixing brush. This is a cheapy brush that I use so I don't damage my good brushes. And then I've got another little paintbrush here that I'm going to use. So I'm going to start with yellow, and I've got my cool yellow. I've just wet my brush, and I'm going to fill in the cool side of this little circle. All right, I'm going to put my 2 primaries in each of those little circles around the color wheel before I mix these colors together. So you can do this with whatever colors you're going to choose to use that have this warm-cool relationship. You can even label what the pigments were, because you will get a different result every time you do it, depending on which warm and cools you use. All right, let's go over here to the warm red. So that's a very nice orangey red. And we'll pick up the quinacridone magenta. This is our cool one. And you can see these colors really have a big difference between them. And we want that. The closer we are, the closer those 2 primaries that you're using in your double primary wheel, then the less colors you can mix from those. All right, so here's ultramarine blue. And that's our warm one, going in the warm half of the circle. And our cool blue, phthalo blue, going. Now these are so dark you might not be able to see the difference in the video, but when you do it, you will certainly see a difference. And I've kept them quite saturated so you can see them. This is printed onto cardstock. However, I would suggest if you're a watercolorist, do it on watercolor paper. You'll get a truer result of the colors that you're mixing. Now I'm going to take my dropper, and I'm going to add just a drop of water into each of these wells where I have those 2 primaries mixed. And I'm going to use my mixing brush to mix those up. So what I'm hoping to do here, or the theory is, that when I mix, when I mix my two primaries together, I'm going to get a color in the middle. So a color that's not warm and a color that's not cool. A color right, a yellow right in the middle. And that color I'm going to say is my true yellow. Neither warm nor cool. All right, so that's pretty nice yellow. Let's take the reds and mix those up. Now I'm keeping these pretty saturated so that on this cardstock we'll be able to see the colors. Okay, so this is my red. It's going to go in here. Ooh, that's a big luscious red. Now, these things will vary depending on how much of each you put in your well, but it doesn't really matter. We're just talking about the theory of it, and as long as you get the theory of it, it doesn't really matter how it looks in the end. And everybody's color wheel will look a little bit different because you'll use different pigments in different ratios. But we're trying to understand the theory of it. All right, so this is my blue. So now I've got a yellow, a red, and a blue, and these are my true, what I'm going to call my true primaries, or my purest state of hue primaries, if I could actually have those colors. That being said, you can't really have those colors because color is relative. So anytime you put a color or two colors beside each other, it changes the way another color looks. So for the purposes of this, we're calling them those true primaries, or the purest state of hue of primary, if I could have that temperature neutral primary. If you buy a tube of paint that says primary yellow or primary red or primary blue, this is pretty much what the paint manufacturers have done. They've taken pigments to make what they're calling their true yellow, true red, and true blue. But you can do it yourself. We've got our true primaries, and we're going to make our secondary colors. Now I've just grabbed a pencil so that I can put in these other things that I'm going to make. So orange is going to go across from blue. So I'm going to take some yellow, and into this yellow I'm going to pick up a little bit of that red. Now it's never an equal relationship, and I'm going to try to make an orange. And what I want is an orange that feels like it's in the middle between my yellow and my red. I do have tester paper here, so I could check it. That looks like a very nice orange. I don't want it too yellow or too red. Okay, we'll be happy with that one. Now I'm going to do the same and make green. Now I don't need very much. Now be careful with your blues because the phthalo blue in this will change that yellow to green very quickly. And I want a green that feels like it's in the middle between the yellow and the blue that I'm using. Okay, that's pretty good. Happy with that. Now I'm going to come down here. So this was green, and green goes across from red, its complementary color. And down here I've got violet, and violet's going to go across from yellow on the color wheel. And I'm going to start with the red. I always start with the lightest color and add the darker color into it because this will save you from making mountains of paint. If you're trying to lighten up a dark color, you have to add so much more of that lighter color to do that. Now I have dirtied this a little. Okay. Now let's see what that looks like. So violet might be a tricky one. Now I see a lot of red in that. I want to add a little bit more blue to that. Ooh, what did I get? Okay, that's pretty good. Maybe a little too blue. I'm going to come back and add a little bit more red into it. Sometimes you have to chase that color around. Oops, I went too much to the blue side. Oops, I'm back to the red again. See how tricky that is. Okay. All right, there's one that I like. All right, let's get that in there now. Okay, so now I've made my secondary colors orange, green, and violet. And they're also the purest state of hue because I've used my purest state of hue yellow, red, and blue. Now I'm going to make what are called the tertiary colors, and those are the colors that are remaining. And before I do that, I'm just going to draw some arrows here so you can see what's happened. So to make this orange, I have used my yellow and my red. Okay, so that goes into there. So using the two on either side to make that one in the middle. Now when I've made my violet, I've used my red and my blue. And when I've made my green, I've used my yellow and my blue. All right, so now I've got these ones in the middle between the primary and the secondary, and these are called our tertiary colors, or our next layer, our third layer of color that we're moving out to. So the way these ones are made by mixing the two on either side. So these little arrows are going to show me the pattern that I'm going to use to come and make these two. All right, and what we're trying to do is we're going to try, just like we did with the secondaries, we want to make a color in here that feels like it's in the middle between the two on either side. So my orange feels fairly much in the middle between my yellow and my red, my violet too, and my green, and I'm going to do the same on the tertiary colors. Okay, so I'm going to do that the same way. Hope I have enough paint here to do it. So I need my yellow twice more. I'm going to take some of that yellow, and I'm going to add a little bit of the orange into it to make that yellow orange. Let's see how that looks. Not bad. Let's just add a little bit more yellow. So really you want to be able to see the yellowness in that. I think I need a little bit more. Let's yellow that up a little bit. We want it to look different. Now I'm going to take the same thing. Now I'm going to take my orange and I'm going to add a little bit of red into it, and I'm going to make red orange. Okay, that looks pretty good. Red orange, not quite as saturated as when I did the primaries, but hopefully we're seeing that. I even feel that that needs a little bit. I'm just going to come and layer a little bit of yellow onto this one. Mix it in there to make it a little more yellow orange. So yellow orange and red orange. Those are the tertiaries in the orange slice of the pie. Let's do green. Now I'm getting low on my yellow here, but let's take this yellow. I've got some there, and I'm going to take some of this green, mix it into it, and I will make a yellow green. Oh yes, that's a nice color. Nice yellow green. All right, feels like yellow green. You really want to see that yellow in that color as well as the green. Let's move around and do this guy. Now I have a little bit of green left here. I'm going to pick up a little bit of this blue. See if I can make blue-green. Everybody loves blue-green. Well, I certainly love it. There we go. There's blue-green. And we want it to feel like it's in the middle. That feels pretty good. I mean, that might have been a little bit light, but you get the idea. There's the blue-green between the green and the blue. And we're going to come down and let's do red violet. All right, take some of the red over here, and into that red I'm going to add the violet. Really keeping it to the red side of the violet, maybe a little bit more, not too much more. Well, maybe a bit. I had such lovely violets when I was mixing them over there, red violets. All right, so red violet, and now I'm going to have to do my blue violet. I'm almost out of my, let's make a little bit more violet. So so I can do this properly. All right, there's my violet. Oh, again, there's my violet. Okay, and into this violet, I'm going to add a bit more blue so that hopefully I didn't overpower it too much. Oh, yes, I did. All right, let's put a bit more red in there to get where we want to go. There, that's a bit better. All right, so blue violet should look like it's got some blue in it. Let's fix that one up a bit. All right, so there is the double primary color wheel. And I've made all these lovely pure state of hue colors. This comes in really handy when we want to mix true complementary colors together and have all the lovely effects that happen with complementary colors. This makes it a whole lot easier for that. It's also a great guide for other color principles like analogous colors and triadics, the general things that you find on a color wheel. There's one other thing that I want to, well, two other things I want to label on here, and that is the tertiary colors for you. So we'll have yellow, orange, and when you're labeling your tertiary colors, it's always going to be the primary name first and the secondary name second. And then we've got red, orange, we've got red, violet, we've got blue, violet, blue, green, and yellow, green. And the other thing I like to put on my color wheels is a thing called relative value. When we're looking at our color wheel, we can see that yellow is our lightest color, so this is number 1. Now we're going to do this just with the primaries and the secondaries and forget about the tertiaries for this exercise. And across from yellow is our darkest. So our darkest color is usually violet in its pure state of hue. Now you can see this is a muddy violet. That's the pure state of hue of violet. When we have that bright, what we call purple, like the Easter colors, that is a high intensity violet, and that's not what this is. So we've got the lightest and the darkest across from each other. Knowing that violet's the darkest color is really great for when you want to mix dark colors. It's a great place to start. And we're going to go around and we're going to fill in the next one. So orange is our next darkest color relative to the yellow. So that's number 2. Then green is 3. Red is 4. And blue is 5. And then we've got violet is 6. The problem children often are, and why we want to know this relative value thing, is when we want to create contrasting color. If we put green and red beside each other, they're very similar in value to each other. So sometimes we have to change, lighten, darken those colors to have more pop when they're beside each other. We can also get into trouble if we change colors out of this normal relationship on the color wheel. So if we lighten up violet and put it beside a dark yellow, we'll create a thing called discord, where we've lightened violet up, and it doesn't like to be a light color and look nice beside its other relatives here on the color wheel. So those are just a couple of things that we can see from this color wheel. I hope this has been helpful to you, and give it a try if you like, and see how it goes for you. You can use this with any kind of paint. So you could do the same color mixing with your acrylics or oils, watercolors. Perhaps only gouache, which has white added to it, wouldn't give you the truest kind of colors on this color wheel.